Today I am going to be looking at celebrity couple Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco's human design to show you how a partnership reading works. I'm going to teach you in today's video what to look for when analyzing romantic compatibility with another person using human design by looking at Selena and Benny's charts. Specifically in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things. 1, the role of type in romantic relationships. 2, what to know about a projector-generator pairing. 3, what it means to have a 4 in your profile while dating and in relationship, and also what it means to have a 6 in your profile. 4, how what's called our definition affects relationships. This is very important. 5, the role of the centers that I personally think are important to look at in relationships. Welcome to Human Design with Anna. I am Anna, and I make educational videos about this mystical system, but I really like to ground human design concepts into reality using real life examples. And I find that celebrities and public figures just naturally live their designs really well, whether they know about human design or not. So I like to use them as teaching tools. But I do want us to remember that Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco are 2 human beings. And I'm actually basing today's analysis solely on a single podcast interview that the couple did with Jay Shetty for his podcast On Purpose, because I really wanted to get information about their relationship from the horse's mouth and not just, Google online. Not everything you read online is true. Even Benny Blanco's birth location is incorrect online. Google AI got it wrong, and I'll get to that later. So I'm going to put a link below of this interview that the couple did with Jay Shetty. It's really good. You can watch it here on YouTube. And I also made little clips of the parts that I talk about in this video. I was a little nervous about including footage in my video because of copyright. So you can check it all out below. And while you're down there, thank you guys so much for subscribing and liking this video. In case you missed it, Selena Gomez is a hugely popular American singer. She's also an actress and a businesswoman. And her fiance, very soon to be husband, Benny Blanco, is a successful music producer. He's also a songwriter. To be honest, I wasn't a huge Selena Gomez fan until I heard her latest album that was released in 2025 called I Said I Love You First, which she collaborated on with Benny Blanco. And the album made a really big impression on me. And I was like, well, who's this Benny Blanco? He seems like such a mensch, especially compared to her ex-boyfriend, Justin Bieber. And so I went down the Benny Blanco rabbit hole and of course looked up his human design. So let's start with Benny Blanco's design. Benny was born on March 8th, 1998 in Grand Prairie, Texas. So he was not born in Reston, Virginia, which is where the internet widely says that he was born. In the interview with Jay Shetty, he actually tells Jay that he and Selena were born in the same town, Grand Prairie, Texas, and then he moved to Reston, Virginia later in life, in his childhood. So we do not know his birth time, which is a bummer because that means we cannot do a connection chart, what's called a connection chart between him and Selena, which would show us their collective design. It would also show us connection channels, among other things. But I did look up his human design at different times throughout the day, and enough stayed consistent for me to be able to, or to have the confidence to do a partnership reading. I don't find that you really need to do this connection chart unless you're a super human design nerd. There is so much that you can just eyeball looking at a couple's charts. So what we know about Benny is that he is a projector. So he's a projector type. His authority is a splenic authority. This means that his spleen center is defined. We also know that his ego center is defined. We also know that his solar plexus center and his root center are undefined. I know that if you're not familiar with centers, this is like, what is this all about? I will get to that later. So I'm going to just put up a chart that is an estimate of what his human design looks like. Not everything on this chart is going to be accurate, but what we do know is that he is a splenic projector. What is Selena Gomez's human design? Well, we do have accurate birth information for her. Selena was born July 22nd, 1992 in Grand Prairie, Texas at 7:19 a.m. This makes her a pure generator. She has a sacral authority. She has a 4/6 profile, and she has what's called a split definition, which I'm going to talk about later in this video. The best place to start in a partnership reading is with type. Type is going to tell you how to effectively communicate with your partner, and if you're a different type from your partner, it'll also help you release expectations that they operate the same way as you. And this will really can mitigate friction in a relationship, right, caused by miscommunication and expectations. So I want to say right off the bat that any type is compatible with any type. This is not astrology, people. So if you're a projector, you can partner with a generator or a manifestor or manifesting generator or a reflector. It doesn't matter. It's all about understanding how your partner operates. That being said, if you are the same type as your partner, so let's say you're a manifesting generator and you're dating or partnered with another manifesting generator, you might feel more of a sense of familiarity, of companionship, of understanding, because you are really meant to operate in the same way. Now, if you're like Selena and Benny and you're a different type than your partner, so Benny is a projector and Selena is a pure generator, there might be more of physical attraction and chemistry because opposites do attract. So neither way is right or wrong. It's just about learning your personal preference. Okay, let's talk about what it means to be a projector-generator couple. That's what Selena and Benny are. So one of the pros of this pairing is that generators really need questions to respond to provoke their gut knowing, and projectors are really gifted at asking insightful questions. The second pro of this kind of pairing is that projectors' energy is really dependent on others, and being around a generator can really light them up and energize them. Now to the communication piece. I would tell Benny that he is really gifted at asking Selena questions, and especially when he asks her questions without an agenda. When he asks her yes or no questions or gives her options in particular instead of open-ended questions, that can really help Selena drop out of her head and into her gut knowing so she can really access her inner truth. Now, I would tell Selena the best way for her to communicate with her projector fiance is to ask him open-ended questions, because that will really access his wisdom and his unique perspectives as a projector. And I would also tell Selena, give him a lot of affirmation and recognition for his perspectives. One of the potential difficulties of a generator-projector pairing is their drastically different energy levels. Selena, as a pure generator, is really designed to have consistent energy. She's here to be a consistent doer. She can go all day, whereas Benny's energy throughout the day is really designed to ebb and flow. So I would tell Selena not to expect Benny to keep up with her, even though he probably feels really energized and amped up around her. It's good for him to take breaks and even rest throughout the day. I would even say that in their relationship, to not expect it to be 50-50. What Benny contributes to the relationship is his unique perspectives and guidance, and he really has the ability to guide Selena and help her leverage her gifts. This is what projectors are really good at. For example, they first really came together and started spending time together when Benny was called in to smooth over one of her songs that she was working on in the music studio. Again, Benny is a music producer. Now, they've been acquainted with each other for many years in the music industry, but this is really the first time that they spent, quality time together. And Benny tells Jay that he stayed till the end of this session to just make sure she got this one line right. And that's like such a projector thing to do, to really tweak something that somebody else is doing to make it even better coming from their area of expertise. Another strength that projectors bring to relationships is the ability to make their partner feel very seen. Selena tells Jay Shetty, "When Benny looks at me, I don't think he sees anything but who I am, and that's very rare to find." It is rare, Selena, because projectors only make up 22% of the population. And while their energy can be intense because it can really lock in on somebody, it can also make them feel very seen and empathized with. Now, what projectors need in relationships is an ability to go deep. Projectors are not here for superficial conversations. In fact, Benny talks about in how their first one-on-one conversation, he walked away from it saying, "Wow, Selena is so deep," and that really stood out to him. Projectors are also really sensitive to their partner's energy, and it's really cute. Benny talks about how when Selena gets spicy, it's all about guiding the missile. Remember, projectors are here to be guides. Benny also really makes sure that Selena feels secure in the relationship and is always texting her throughout the day, letting her know where he's at. So I would tell my straight single ladies out there that if you're looking for a sensitive man, date a projector. So what does Selena bring to the relationship as a pure generator? Well, when generators are doing what they love, they have this really infectious, joyous, lit up energy that really spills over. And especially to projectors, it can be really felt and feel really, really good. Benny also talks about how warm Selena is throughout the video with Jay Shetty, and he even says there's an aura around her that exudes warmth. And indeed, the generator aura is really designed to be open and embracing and really feel like a warm hug. Not only do generators bring warmth to a relationship with a projector, but they also bring projectors energy that they need. It can be really helpful for projectors to partner with generators because it can light them up and get them excited, which is what we talked about, but it can also help them be more productive, especially at work. Just being around Selena, Benny might find that he is more productive. Also, projectors often rely on generators to create opportunities for them to share their gifts with the world. It's actually a little difficult for projectors to do it all alone. If you think about it, Benny Blanco didn't really enter the public eye or receive the level of recognition that he has now before he partnered with Selena. Let's talk about how they entered their relationship, their romantic relationship. So they've been working together first, and then they became friends. And it was actually Selena who asked Benny out on the first date, which Jay remarks on, and Benny says almost under his breath, "She did everything." Now, this is a correct way for projectors to enter relationships, to wait to be asked out, to wait to be invited. The projector strategy in human design, and every type has a different strategy. The projector strategy is called wait for the invitation. And for Benny, it's really best for him to wait to be invited into a relationship, to wait for somebody else to make the first move. And that's how he'll really enter the most aligned relationships for him. Now, for Selena, I looked more to her profile to give us intel on relationships for her than to her strategy. So Selena has a 4-6 profile, and with a 4 in her profile, a friends first dynamic is really best for her. So if you have a 4 in your profile, know that you are probably more comfortable dating people who were friends first. You're also probably more comfortable working with friends, and also know that you can be slow to trust, especially if you've been hurt in the past. Your heart can be quite guarded. And Selena talks very openly to Jay about this, that she and Benny were hanging out, and she says that she was cautious in trying to protect herself. Although 4s, so again, if you have a 4 in your profile, this means you could be a 1-4, a 4-6, a 2-4, a 4-1. 4s are really personable and friendly, but they can be slow to trust. And again, a friends first dynamic works really well for them. Also, for fours, the best opportunities, including romantic relationships, come through their network. So that could be their friend group or work or, through family. This is why in traditional human design, the four is called the opportunist. It just means your best opportunities come through people you know. So I would tell my fours out there, instead of trying to online date or date strangers, nurture your networks and see who comes through. Now, we don't know Benny's profile, but chances are he does have a 4 in his profile unless he was born late at night. And I think this would make sense for him as well, because he's very effusive to Jay, saying, I met my best friend and I get to kiss her. And likewise, Selena says, I can't believe I get to marry my best friend. With a 6 in her profile, again, Selena is a 4-6. Her life works in 3 stages. So for the first 28 to 30 years until her Saturn returns, that's a stage of experimentation, of bumping up against things, of being in the wrong relationships, even doing the wrong career things. Around 28 to 30 at her Saturn returns, that's when the second phase of the 6 kicks in, and it's called On the Roof. And that's a time that lasts until age 50, where 6s retreat a little bit from life to really integrate and even heal from those earlier life experiences. Selena tells Jay about being alone, about being single for 5 years before meeting Benny. And she says, I really needed to collect myself. And I clocked it. And this 5-year period started around her Saturn returns. Selena really recognizes that before that time, she wouldn't have been ready for Benny. And it's ideal that 6s wait until they're 30 before entering lifelong commitments, lifelong partnerships. Around age 50, that's when her role model phase will begin. The 6 in traditional human design is called the role models, and that's when her wisdom will really blossom. But just by watching this interview, I can see that she's started to really integrate those earlier life experiences and is starting to exude that wisdom as a role model, and that'll just get better with time. A really important aspect of your human design that affects relationships is something called your definition. So when you look up your human design, it'll list your type, your strategy, your authority, and it'll say definition. And most people are either a split definition or a single definition. So Selena has a split definition, which 46% of the population does. And that means it can feel like something's missing or that she's not complete when she's not in a relationship or around other people. Having a split definition can also mean that you process better around other people. It can also mean that collaboration really works best for you. Remember, her and Benny collaborated on this latest album and it was quite successful. Now, somebody with a split definition like Selena can come across as needy or clingy to somebody who has what's called a single definition. People with a single definition, and that's 41% of the population, feel complete and whole unto themselves. They can absolutely be in relationships, but they might be more independent when they're in relationships. They don't need somebody to, complete them. So we don't know what Benny's definition is. He's either split or single. But again, if he, let's say, had a single definition, Selena could just come across as clingy and needy to him, and neither side is right or wrong. It's just an energy dynamic to be aware of. But we do know that there is a similar dynamic in another aspect of their charts. So this brings me to a conversation about the centers. So if you look at a human design chart, there's all these shapes on it, and there's 9 shapes for each human design, for each person's chart. And the shapes represent different areas of life, like how we handle stress or how we handle emotions or what our identity is. So there's a few centers that are really important to look at when it comes to relationship dynamics. So I'm going to look at Benny's defined spleen center. So I'm going to circle that on his chart. When something's defined, it's colored in, as opposed to Selena's undefined spleen center. I'm going to circle that too. It's white on her chart. So what does this mean? So this means that Benny exudes this sort of feel-good energy. Most people who have a defined spleen have this feel-good energy, especially if you have an undefined spleen like Selena. I mean, if you just watch this video with Jay Shetty, Benny just is all good vibes. At a subconscious level though, Selena might feel like her survival depends on Benny because the spleen center is the survival center. So this can set up a dynamic where Selena might feel more attached or more clingy to Benny. So when it comes to relationships, if there's a partner that needs more breathing space than the other partner, you want to look at definition. Does one person have a single definition and the other person has a split definition? And two, look at the spleen center. Does one person have that center defined and the other person have it undefined? This is not about right or wrong, but it's really about understanding each other's differences. Another center to look at in partnership readings is the solar plexus center, which speaks to how we experience emotions. This might be the most important center to look at in partnership. If you're the same type as your partner but feel really different from them, it might be because one of you has the center defined and the other has this undefined. So about half the population has the center defined, which means that they're always on an emotional wave, which to the other half of the population who has the center white on their chart can feel like an emotional roller coaster. So when I look at Selena and Benny's charts, they both have the center white, which means it's undefined, which means that their, let's say, relational environment is pretty calm and probably not very emotionally volatile. This doesn't mean that they're not without emotions, but it's not this dynamic of one person barraging the other with their emotions. The last center I want to look at is the root center, which speaks to how we handle stress. So Selena has the root center defined and Benny has his undefined. So Selena might be better at handling stress than Benny. And not only that, when she is stressed out, that is something that Benny might feel from her. He might feel her stress and even amplify it. So I would really recommend to Benny, if he's feeling a lot of urgency or pressure or feelings of stress, to check in to see if it's really his stress or if it's Selena, and if it is, to take space. And just as a projector in general, I would recommend for Benny to take space from Selena from time to time, because projectors are really sensitive to the energies of others and they really need space alone to empty out of those energies. I know this is a bit edgy, but it's recommended that projectors sleep alone, like sleep in separate bedrooms, especially if they're partnered with a generator or manifesting generator. Remember, the generator energy is go, go, go. So it's like sleeping next to a whirring motor all night long. Even though Selena is asleep, Benny can still feel that energy and it can be disruptive to his sleep. This is something that when a lot of projectors hear this for the first time, this recommendation to sleep alone, it gives them permission to do something that deep down they've needed to do for their sleep and energy hygiene. You know, relationships don't have to be done the way society tells us they do. I mean, sometimes it feels like the internet is yelling at us, like, you have avoidant attachment style if you need to sleep alone, or you have anxious attachment style if you are clingy and needy in relationships. But human design does not judge us for our different needs. It just shows us this is how you're wired to be. I think this is a good note to end today's video on this partnership reading for Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. I really hope there were gems in it for you or for your partner. And until next time, take very good care of yourself and of each other. Bye.